Civilization series is one that had stuck to a "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" mantra. There have been many upgrades and improvements made since the first Civilization title, released way back in 1991, and they've kept going right up until 2016's Civ VI, a game that is still receiving updates. Civilization VI has recently released an anthology edition, which would suggest that it has just reached the end of its life cycle. However, from 91 through to now, the core premise and gameplay has remained the same. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Civ series, it is a turn-based strategy title that places you at the head of a civilization, starting in the ancient era. It is up to you to take your civilization and make it into the dominant power in the world. How you achieve that is up to you, as there are various paths you can take. While it is important to keep up with your neighbours in all aspects of civilization, be that culture, science, wealth or war, it is equally important to specialise in one so that you can achieve one of the many victory conditions. It's more complicated than that, but that is it in a nutshell. Given that every Civilization game follows the same basic premise and gameplay, it would stand to reason that every new entry in the series would be better than what preceded it, given the improved technology and experience of the developers. However, not everyone shares that opinion. In terms of concurrent players on Steam, Civ VI is sitting with roughly 20,000 more concurrent players than Civ V. However, if we're looking at player reviews, Civ V is more uniformly praised than its successor. I'm Strat Tom, and today we're looking at which is better, Civ V or Civ VI. Now, before I get into this thing, I'm going to give all the usual caveats and warnings that this is just my opinion, and it's meant to be a bit of fun and nothing to get too serious over. Also, I do encourage you to post your own opinions in the comments below. Cool? Cool. Alright, let's get cracking. Number 1. Ethics. So, I've told you not to take this too seriously, and I'm immediately breaking my own rule by getting serious. I'm getting this out of the way first so I can focus on the games themselves, but I also feel I would be remiss if I let this one go. One of the major criticisms of Civilization VI is the introduction of a form of spyware in a recent update. To include spyware is bad enough, but to add it at a later date, after so many people have already purchased the game, that's heinous. I've seen some dodgy business practices in my time, and this is up there with the worst. So, if you're going to play Civ VI, be aware that they're engaging with a bit of the old data mining. On that note, in terms of ethics and business practice, I'm giving 1 point to Civ V. Number 2. Warfare. Admittedly, there's not a lot to separate the two here. I think that most people would agree that the combat is much improved since Civ V and the introduction of the Hex System and the removal of unit stacks. No longer can a huge horde take up one little tile, and no longer do two huge stacks just smash into each other repeatedly like a child playing with toys. When compared to the series at large, Civilizations V and VI are the best in terms of combat, at least in my opinion. The need to protect and strategically place artillery and missile troops is great. Also, the bonuses to be had by having multiple infantry divisions guard each other's flanks make warfare just so much better than earlier iterations. But which out of the two of them is best? Personally, I found attempting a military playthrough in Civ VI somewhat frustrating. It may simply be that I personally need to get good, but I found cities incredibly difficult to take, and wars often devolved into stalemates. Like I said, I'm nitpicking here because combat is good in both of them, but I'm giving this point to Civ V. Number 3. Science. Science and research have been a cornerstone of the Civilization series since day one. When compared to other games of a similar ilk, the Civilization series has always truly had a tech tree, with multiple branching paths, and a plethora of new and exciting discoveries to unlock. Civ V continues this tradition well enough, but Civ VI did something new. For the first time, the actions you took and the character of your nation impacted your ability to research. Science and invention does not happen in a vacuum, and often necessity is the mother of invention, as the saying goes. In Civ VI, certain actions that you take or interactions with the world will impact your knowledge. For instance, if you invest time and resources into building ships and becoming a seafaring nation, then seafaring technologies will be easier for you to unlock. Training soldiers and fighting in wars will give you boosts to weapon technologies, and you get the gist. The way that Civ VI incorporates your playstyle into the research mechanics is something that I love. So, for science, the point goes to Civ VI. Number 4. Culture. Culture as a concept is pretty abstract, and it can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. In a tangible sense, in terms of the Civilization series, culture is a larger way of expanding your borders without military conquest. But it is also a way of determining the character of your nation. In Civ VI, your culture develops somewhat like your research, with new cultural innovations unlocking new bonuses. My issue with that is there are only so many slots for these bonuses to be placed in, depending on your government types. But I never really feel the need to engage with this, and I often just replace one small buff with another small buff when one becomes obsolete. In Civ V, there are various cultural paths that you can start to go down, with each upgrade you earn. I feel more like Civ V enables you to truly specialise. If you wish to spread out wide or grow tall, focus on the arts and culture, science and technology, or weapons and warfare, Civ V's culture system lets you feel like you are truly specialising. I didn't get that feeling with Civ VI. I will add that I don't have much in the way of DLC with Civ VI, and I apologise if my point here is made redundant by some piece of DLC that I need. But for now, and by my experience, the culture point goes to Civ V. Number 5. The Hex System. In Civ V, we said goodbye to the square tiles of yesteryear and said hello to the hex tile system. Personally, I find it so much better than the old ways, as it gives you much more to play with. In Civ V, the hex system was great because it made you focus more on how your forces were arrayed for battle. As I discussed in the military section, gone were the days of stacks of units on a single tile. This new system of one unit per tile works far better on the hexes than it ever could have on squares. Positioning of your forces was of key concern, and it allowed you to use the terrain to your advantage in a much more nuanced way. However, outside of military concerns, the hex system was underutilised. Buildings still just sprang up on the map next to your cities, and while it looked good, there was no decision to be made about placement. In Civ VI, we got the idea of districts, specialised zones such as military, science or cultural that could be built and they could house further upgrades. Furthermore, wonders also take up their own tile on the map. Certain wonders can only be built in certain areas, and some districts can create far larger yields depending on where you place them. I feel as this gives you far more considered decisions to make regarding the use of space on the map. So, for the use of the hex system, Civ VI gets the point. Number 6. Builders. This one is really simple. The builder, or worker unit, is a unit that has featured across all Civilization games. Their job basically is to improve the land that you control. That grassland is great and naturally provides food, but what if you were to farm it? Well then, the yield of food would improve. Have you discovered oil or coal in the late game? Well, it's no use to you sat in the ground. Go get a worker to build a mine or an oil well. In Civ V, like all previous Civilization titles, you put your builders to work, and after a certain number of turns, the improvement is completed. The only way you could lose your builder is if an enemy soldier took them from you or you disbanded the unit. In Civ VI, builders create their improvements instantly. However, you only get a certain amount of uses before the builder is spent and is no longer available to you. Builders always seem like valuable assets in these games, but much less so in Civ VI, as builders were quickly spent after a few turns. This lends weight to a certain argument that people have about Civ VI. This is the first, but it won't be the last time I bring up this argument. Many people have said that Civ VI has drifted in its style and tone into that of a mobile game. This expending of workers so quickly really does give Civ VI an oddly arcade-like feel, and I just don't like it. If, by any chance, any of the developers are watching, please do away with this. The point goes to Civ V. Number 7. Narrators. At key points in any Civilization game, we are greeted with quotes to support what is going on. Be it a scientific advancement, a great work being completed, or a wonder of the world being built, we are treated to some words of wisdom from our resident narrator. Now, of course, if we were including Civ IV in this discussion, then Leonard Nimoy's performance would certainly be taking the prize. However, we're not, and so we have William Morgan Shepherd in Civ V.
Libraries are the shrine where all the relics of the ancient saints, full of true virtue, and that without delusion or imposture, are preserved and reposed.
Shepherd had a long and distinguished career, appearing in many films and television shows without ever really being the star. He also lent his voice talents to many other games, and some of you may remember him featuring prominently in the Medal of Honor series. His commanding voice talents were an excellent addition to Civilization V. Sadly, Shepherd passed away in 2019. Rest in peace, sir. His Civ VI counterpart is a far more famous name, a man whose role of the narrator of Civ VI is one of the few roles that he doesn't die in. I am, of course, talking about Yorkshire's own Sean Bean.
I am fond of pigs. Dogs look up to us. Cats look down on us. Pigs treat us as equals.
Both of these men are great in their own way, but I think the calming, dulcet tones of Sean Bean takes it in this instance. Maybe it's my northern bias, who knows. He may never have been the king in the north, but today he is certainly the king of Civilization narrators. The point goes to Civ VI. Number 8. Diplomacy. In my mind, diplomacy has always been far too weak an aspect in a game series like Civilization. I would have thought there would be far more to do, and it would be a deeper, more meaningful system. I've often found myself at odds with, or friendly with, leaders and not fully knowing why. There are some obvious things that you can do to make people like or dislike you, such as giving gifts or tribute to please someone. Or you might anger them by settling too close to your rival's lands. However, by and large, I found my relations with the AI leaders changing with the winds, arbitrarily. In Civ VI, there is some slight rhyme and reason. The AI characters have predisposed agendas. For instance, a warlike leader like Frederick Barbarossa respected me for building a large army. The diplomacy point here isn't really going to the one that I like the most, more so the one that I dislike the least. And I dislike Civ VI diplomacy the least, so it's getting the point. Number 9. Graphic design. I almost called this segment graphics, but I changed my mind in favour of graphic design. After all, Civ VI is 6 years older than 5, so it should have better graphics. And in terms of its technical ability, graphics wise, Civ VI is better. Parts of this game look stunning. But in terms of the graphical style they chose to go with, I'm going to have to go back to my earlier point about Civ VI feeling like a mobile game. For reasons that I am unable to fathom, more and more strategy games are leaning into this cartoonish art style. This, coupled with a new Battle Royale mode that they introduced in one of their DLCs, it almost seems like they're trying to grab people from the Fortnite crowd. Now, don't get me wrong, if there's one thing I hate in the gaming community, it is the excess of snobbery and gatekeeping. If you like Fortnite, you like Fortnite. That's cool. I don't consider strategy gaming to be better than any other genre. I know there'll be some people who like both. However, I sincerely doubt that the kids who are playing Fortnite are going to be looking at the cartoonish styling of Civ VI and say, hey guys, let's put down this fast-paced shooter and go play that turn-based strategy game instead. Who is this supposed to appeal to? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm set in my ways. But I hate it. I hated it in Red Alert 3. Go check out my review if you want to hear how much I hated it. I hate it in the Age of Empires 4 trailer. And I hate it here. We went from the beautifully designed leaders of Civ V to this weird bug-eyed thing in Civ VI. Civ V is obviously getting the point here. And so there you have it. Civilization V just about takes it. I'll be honest with you, I changed the initial concept of this video. I had originally planned a video entitled Why Civ V is better than Civ VI. In that video, I would basically just dump on Civ VI and tell you why Civ V was great. But in order to make that video, obviously I had to give Civ VI another playthrough, and I did go in there with an open mind. And on my latest playthrough, I did admittedly find a lot to enjoy. I still think that Civ V is a slightly better game, but Civ VI took a lot of risk and tried a lot of new things. Some of those things were great, some of them not so much, but that is still to be commended. And of course, this is just one man's opinion. If you want to tell me your breakdown in the comments, I'd love to hear them. Also, if there are any other games you want to see me compare, please, also in the comments. But for now, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I'm Strat Tom, and I'll see you next time.